I don't think it's nothing.
No.
I think there's something to it, and there's a reason why it resonates with people. And Christianity in particular is the most fascinating to me because there's this one person that everybody agrees existed that somehow or another had the best plan for how human beings should interact with each other and behave, and was the best example of it, and even died in a non-violent way. Like, didn't even protest, died on the cross, supposedly for our sins. Like, it's a fascinating story. What does it represent, though? That's the real thing. What was that?
Recently, Joe Rogan had on the guest or the host of the Triggernometry podcast on his show, where obviously they discussed a whole bunch of issues. But a particular segment was truly fascinating where they discussed religion in general. But I really want you to stick around and watch this entire video when the guys from Triggernometry go into a bit more detail as to Christianity, the uniqueness of it. Something really strange seems to be happening with Joe. I called it years ago where I said Joe might be making some profession of faith down the road. I kind of saw the hints of it not that long ago. He isn't there completely, but considering where he was 10, 15 years ago, the dude has come mighty far. Keep Joe in your prayers, y'all. Check out this clip. I think you'll find this very interesting.
I've always been attracted to the idea that these people like really believe. Like, it's fascinating when I watch like super religious people that are praying 5 times a day, and I'm like that is amazing. Like, look how dedicated they are to that thing. Like, there's an attractiveness to that. Like, God, I wish I was like, if I was that dedicated to something, I'd probably be like way more stable in my life.
Yeah.
You know, because
I mean, you gotta consider though, Joe is a successful comedian, podcaster, UFC commentator. I mean, to a high degree, he's got routinely the number one podcast in the world. So, and a black belt in jiu-jitsu, lifelong martial artist. So he's got dedication to a lot of things in his life. So I don't even know what he's talking about here.
you're just locked in and everybody believes, and you know, you see people talking about the religion with utmost certainty. Like, I wish I was that certain.
Maybe he's talking about religion in particular, most likely.
Yeah.
Wish I was that certain. Those guys are so certain they're willing to die. Like,
It also gives you like a lot of inner peace. It does.
But there's also scientific data to support the idea that religious beliefs make people more content. In the US, when they had surveys before, it spoke on how people who hold to devout religious beliefs just have better lives, or they're more content when difficult times come around, and they're less likely to suffer from mental illness. So there's something to be said about that.
yeah, if you really do believe that, it definitely will help you.
I haven't got there, but I have started going to church every now and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I do.
I do too. It's a bunch of people that are going to try to make their lives better. They're trying to be a better person. And they're
And just to add in here, this is a commentary channel, just a FYI. As a Christian, and I know what Joe's saying is there's a large amount of truth to it. We do go to become better people. That's part of the reason why we go. We grow together in community. We hold each other accountable. We hear the word preached and proclaimed. If you're at a good church, you hear the Bible being preached. So that's very true. But you also have the aspect of it. It's growing in understanding of who we are, growing in understanding God's plan and will for our lives through our everyday relationships, through difficult times. There's so much to it. Yeah, so I'm not dismissing what Joe says, but just trying to add a little detail. There's far more going on. There's a lot more going on than just wanting to be a better person.
trying.
I wanted to add quickly the most important reason why a true Christ follower, or anyone for that matter, should want to go to church is to understand who God is, understand his nature, his character, his will, his plan. And prayerfully, as time goes on, we'll grow in our desire to conform our will to his. Just wanted to add that point.
To I mean, for me at least, the place that I go to, they read and analyze passages in the Bible. I'm really interested in what these people were trying to say, because I don't think it's nothing. There's a lot of like atheists and secular people that just like to dismiss Christianity as being
Now, here's the cool part, y'all. Make sure you stay tuned and listen to this.
foolish. It's just fairy tales. I hear that amongst, self-professed intelligent people. Like it's a fairy tale. I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I think there's more to it. I think it's history, but I think it's a confusing history. It's a confusing history because it was a long time ago. And it's people telling things in an oral tradition and writing things down in a language that you don't understand, in the context of a culture that you don't understand. And I think there's something to what they're saying. I think there's a reason why they all have a flood myth. I think there's a reason. They all have a very similar story of catastrophic floods and
Yeah, very, very interesting. Let me back up and just address a little bit of what he said. And again, Joe's not a Christian, so he's going to have a bit of a skeptical take on everything. And I can appreciate that, and I can understand that. There are clips out there, and I'll probably put one right here. Just Joe years ago when he first started his podcast, just being so venomous and hateful and just completely discounted Christianity.
The whole thing's so stupid. Just stop and think how stupid that is. You understand, mother, because the New Testament is utter horse.
A man rising from the dead, mocking it, laughing. Just say how stupid that is. The way he spoke, he was so dismissive of the belief system of religion in general. His stance, his take now is just so unique. He's really wrestling with the reality that, well, one, there has to be something going on if so many people believe it. Now, that alone doesn't prove something to be true. We all know that because a lot of people can be wrong. But when you look at things from a more historical perspective, it wasn't that long ago where Joe even acknowledged the many holes in atheism, in the Big Bang, how all of creation came to be from a atheistic perspective. And even he's called that into question in more recent years. And he talks about Christianity being so many years ago, which can add to the questions. That is a reasonable comment to make. But let's look at it from an evolutionary perspective. With Christianity, we're talking about a few thousand years of human history. Whereas when it comes down to where life began and how life was started, we're talking billions and billions and millions of years. But if you question that in our modern society, you're mocked, you're laughed at, you're ridiculed. It doesn't make any sense. We have so much manuscript documentation in history, not only of the events in the Bible, but we're talking about events in general. So we understand the cultures, we understand ancient Hebrew culture, the early Christian church, so much documentation to let us know what these people were believing and how and why we can believe it to be true. It's not just something that was done in the dark. Jesus went into the world. He was in Israel. The history of the church, the history of Christianity, when we're talking about the Old Testament, covers an even longer period of time. And we're talking about multiple civilizations and cultures interacting with each other, the birth of the nation of Israel. So there's a ton of information out there to help us understand these things. And I really thought it was a good take when he talks about how the evidence of the flood is even in the geological record. Really cool to even hear him say that. I would say flood account personally, but
chaos. And then that jives with what geologists are finding and what these people are finding that are exploring the Younger Dryas impact theory, that there was floods, massive, enormous amounts of water that are instantaneously released from melting ice caps all over the world because of comet impacts. Like, it happened. There's evidence.
Now, we would argue it wasn't necessarily comet impacts, but then again, could God have used a comet to cause floods, the Great Flood back in the day? Possible, but we primarily read in the scriptures that the fountains of the deep burst open, that the flood came down from, or came up from deeper in the earth.
Physical evidence of this happening. And I think that's what they're trying to say in these stories. I just think it's so confusing. It's so confusing because you're dealing with a time so long ago. We talk about how different people live today on Earth, but way more similar today than we would be reacting or interacting with a society that existed 6,000 years ago. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, what is that like? What is?
Yeah, there would definitely be a ton of differences culturally speaking. But again, I go back to what I said. There is a ton of evidence and text and manuscript evidence and archaeological finds on top of those manuscripts, just structures and coins and artifacts and all types of things that help paint a really, really strong picture as to who a particular people group, who they actually were, what they believed, what they thought about, how they interacted within their culture, how they interacted with other nations. And we're also talking about ancient civilizations that were very oral, no doubt about it. But that puts them in a overwhelmingly smarter position than we are now. And I know that's very foreign to a lot of people. A lot of people think we're so much smarter nowadays. Now, we may be more technologically advanced nowadays, but that doesn't necessarily make us smarter today. I think what it does is we've just stacked knowledge upon knowledge over an extended period of time. But when you live in a culture that doesn't have a massive writing history, not to the same degree that we have, I'm assuming, but you have to memorize a lot of things. These people were brilliant back in the day. Very, very smart. So I think oftentimes we want to discount that. And I think some people can say that things have been put off so long, it's been so far in the past that you can't really understand it. I think to some degree that could be a cop-out as well. What are your thoughts on this?
The world like then? What is discourse like? Like, what rules are there? What protections do you have against being robbed and stolen from? And how often is war? What is life like back then? It's fucking nuts. And so you're writing things down on animal skins frantically and hiding them in clay jars in Qumran, and like, oh, I hope somebody finds this someday. And then thousands of years later, someone does. They find these ancient fucking scrolls and they pull them out, and they're versions of stories from the Bible. So these people have been telling these same stories for thousands of years. Like, well, okay, what were they trying to say? That's what's interesting to me. I don't think it's nothing.
No.
I think there's something to it, and there's a reason why it resonates with people. And Christianity in particular is the most fascinating to me because there's this one person that everybody agrees existed that somehow or another had the best plan for how human beings should interact with each other and behave.
Well, there's some people out there, just to be fair with the dialogue, there are people out there who actually try to make the claim that Jesus never existed. I think that's utterly insane. We take far less evidence to account for many people in ancient history, and there's way more documentation that Jesus actually walked on this earth
and was the best example of it, and even died in a non-violent, like, didn't even protest, died on the cross, supposedly for our sins. Like, it's a fascinating story. What does it represent, though? That's the real thing. What was that? Like, what happened? Who was Jesus Christ if it was a human being?
Joe, Jesus was the Son of God, God in the flesh, who lived in eternity, entered into this world, gave his life as a ransom for many, so that by us believing in what he did on the cross as him paying the penalty for our sin, we can, by faith, if we trust in what he did, we can be reconciled, made right with God, have fellowship and relationship with him for all eternity. That's who Jesus was, and that's what he did. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Comment down below on this video. What do you think is going to happen with Joe? He's really wrestling with these things. He's having conversations and people on the show who are very sound and solid biblical Christians. Stephen Meyer, for one, Wes Huff as another. And something's going on in this man's mind. And it's cool to see him wrestling with these issues as it is with society as a whole. I'm seeing more and more people who are wrestling with these issues of faith and of Christianity in particular. But before you go, check out this video above. I think you'll appreciate it.